right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
Tonight, we're just moments away from a major and controversial criminal justice reform as Illinois becomes the first state in the nation to ban cash bail.
We started off in the 40s and 50s this morning. It felt pretty nice, but things are changing. When you'll have to turn the AC back on overnight as temperatures are back in the 60s in the morning.
Our top story, day 3 of auto workers on strike in Wentzville, and there are no signs of stopping.
They are holding strong. They're excited about this. They're excited for what we're working towards.
The domino effect that could strengthen the union's presence on the picket line. Tonight, Ford and General Motors are threatening hundreds of temporary layoffs as soon as next week as the United Auto Workers continue their strategic strike at select plants. Good evening, I'm Mark Maxwell. Mike Bush has the night off. 5 on Your Side's Diamond Palmer reports from Wentzville as union members inch towards 72 hours on the picket line.
17 years ago, James Barlow got a job making cars at the GM plant in Wentzville.
Things were different then.
He's 62 now and almost ready to retire, but joined the picket line demanding better pay for workers coming behind him.
They started us out at $21 an hour as a temp then. So it's a lot different. These guys are coming in at $15, $16 an hour.
Workers are on strike around the clock outside of the gates surrounding the GM plant in Wentzville. That's where we found UAW Local 2250 President Katie Deathridge. She fielded the phone call from UAW's international president asking to make Wentzville a battleground for the historic strike.
You start losing momentum, you start losing hope, you start losing faith. So we see this momentum still continuing there, and he's fighting for us. We're down here supporting him.
Sunday, United Auto Workers International President Shawn Fain was on Face the Nation. He says the members are fed up with falling behind. Here in Wentzville today, we learned that this strategic strike plan could cause temporary layoffs to non-striking workers because this plant here is a stamping plant, which means they help provide other plants with parts. And with no parts, that means those employees will be right here on the picket lines. The GM Fairfax assembly plant in Kansas City, Kansas could be the first to feel the ripple effects of the strike, which would include 2,000 more people.
And so they're going to run out of parts, and then they will then be on strike with us.
Strike. They stand with us. I mean, we all got to stand together.
In Wentzville, Diamond Palmer, 5 on Your Side.
GM expects to run out of parts in Fairfax as soon as the coming week. Ford says they've temporarily laid off 600 workers in Wayne, Michigan, near Detroit. This coming as the company claims employees use materials that must be e-coated for protection. Coating is completed in the paint department, which is on strike. New information tonight on a shooting in the Central West End. St. Louis police now say a 70-year-old man was shot in the leg, not a 7-year-old boy as they first reported. The shooting happened on Maryland near North Taylor. Police have not yet said what led to that shooting and no word on the man's condition. Tonight, Ferguson police are asking for witnesses to come forward and for homeowners to turn over surveillance footage to help solve a deadly shooting. It happened yesterday afternoon on Norlakes Drive. That's off West Florissant and Northwind Estates. Investigators believe a man was shot and killed by someone he knew. If you know something about it or have any information, call Ferguson police. Tomorrow, Illinois becomes the first state to ban cash bail as the controversial Safety Act takes full effect. Supporters say cash bail punishes the poor, while some critics say it will put more criminals on the street before their trial. 5 on Your Side's Laura Barteski joins us in studio to break down what all this means. Laura?
Well, Mark, tomorrow things are going to look a lot different in the courtroom and especially behind the scenes as judges and those facing charges will now have a pretrial detention hearing instead of a bond hearing.
The eliminating of cash bail is not relative to safety in my mind. If you have money, you can bail yourself out. It doesn't matter the crime that you have committed.
Now those days are gone in Illinois. Loretta Rice-Barnes with the Metro East Organizing Coalition says the end of cash bail is the beginning of the road to racial and economic dignity in the Illinois justice system.
Cash bail, for one, has targeted marginalized people. You have 36% black people, black men particularly, that receive higher bails than white men, 19% Latino males that receive higher bails.
Starting on Monday, when someone in Illinois is arrested and facing charges, a judge will hold a pre-trial detention hearing to take a look at the case, examining the person's history, criminal record if any, the likelihood they'll show up to court, and if there's any risk to the public. But if the person is facing charges for a non-violent offense, they could be released and sent home, or they could be released and put on some form of home detention system ahead of a trial. If the person is facing serious charges connected to murder, sexual assault, violent robberies, or burglaries, they can be denied pretrial release.
The people that will be released under this act are charged with crimes that are nonviolent, that essentially don't really have a victim. Typical examples would be drug possession and also retail thefts.
So what about the people currently sitting in jail and have a cash bail they couldn't pay?
All of them will have a right to a pretrial hearing in the next 90 days. We've had to adjust the schedules of the judges so that the state's attorneys and the public defenders aren't scrambling around, so that we can accommodate their schedules.
Public defender Kathy McElroy says she believes there could be more people headed back to jail if they paid their bail and those offenses fall under a serious or violent category. Is concerned about a possible overcrowding at jails that are already over capacity. Mark.
Laura, thanks. A Pacific man is dead after hitting a school bus in Eureka. The crash happened early Saturday morning on Interstate 44, right in front of Six Flags. According to the crash report, an unoccupied school bus rolled into the westbound lanes. A van struck the back of the bus. The driver of the van, 52-year-old Daniel Duncan, died. No word on who the bus belongs to. This morning, parishioners at St. John Paul II Catholic Church in Afton gathered outside to pray as they look toward an uncertain future for their parish. Last month, the Archdiocese began to implement its All Things New plan, which calls to consolidate 178 parishes into 134. 5 on Your Side's Travis Cummings was with the congregation as they bid farewell.
The building was built in 1915, over 100 years of devoted Catholics, and we're so sad that this parish would close.
That sadness made for a gloomy Sunday at St. John Paul II in Afton. Families consoled each other as they exited the building for the last time.
This is probably the less affluent parish in the Afton area, and this closes. Our hope is that economics didn't play a part in it.
Steve Goniger's roots run deep.
Went to first grade here, so been here my whole life.
His church is one of many in the Archdiocese of St. Louis's plan to reshape 178 parishes to 134, a decision many aren't fond of.
There's a lot of contraction happening in our communities on a global way, and contraction kind of hurts.
Archbishop Mitchell Rosansky's decree cites the reason for the downsizing includes the decrease in households and attendance in Eucharist on Sundays. Members say they've reached out to him to meet about possible solutions since July, but haven't heard back.
24/7, 365, there is always an adorer before the Blessed Sacrament. These are not your just Christmas and Easter Catholics.
Parishioners will be transferred to Seven Holy Founders, still 10 minutes away in Afton, but the concern there is safety.
They have to go in a very dark parking lot. Then they have to, once they get in, they have to either walk 3 flights of stairs down to that chapel.
They're leaving doing what they know best.
Not going to lose our faith over this, but it's a big blow. We just don't understand.
Travis Cummings, 5 on Your Side.
A spokesperson for the Archdiocese says the Adoration Chapel at Seven Holy Founders is accessible through the first floor entrance all day and night.
Tonight, a manhunt in Southern California.
We need to get this guy off the street.
The big reward offered for the capture of the gunman wanted for the ambushed killing of a deputy. Fighting anti-Semitism, the group of Jewish teens making a difference by providing their peers across the St. Louis region with an important lesson.
It's been incredibly dry, and we'll talk about how dry it's been coming up, but over the next few days, not much change. What this means for us and when we'll see our next chance of rain in the extended forecast.
Tonight, a $250,000 reward is being offered for the capture of the gunman who killed and ambushed a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy. Ryan Klinkenbroomer was shot in the back of the head while sitting in his patrol car at a red light near the sheriff's station last night. Surveillance video shows a black car pulling up next to the deputy's cruiser before taking off. Tonight, police near Chicago are searching for a former NFL player while investigating the death of his mother. Family called police yesterday saying they couldn't find 35-year-old Sergio Brown or 73-year-old Myrtle Brown. Her body was later found in a creek behind her home. Police are investigating her death as a homicide.
Making a Difference is sponsored by Midwest Bank Center.
Anti-Semitism is on the rise in this country, but one local program is taking a unique approach to tackling the issue. As we first told you in May, it's connecting students of different faiths to break down barriers and build bridges in the fight against hate. On this day at Seckman High School in Imperial, Missouri,
what I just blew is called a shofar.
The best teachers might just be students.
Very loud, and it's used for a traditional wake-up call.
Which is why Mr. Kirby is just an observer today in his German language classroom.
I want to expose my students to the whole world, especially to things that they might not know about.
The way my bat mitzvah looked.
This lesson plan is being taught by 4 Jewish students.
Another option that a lot of people tend to do is go to a Jewish day school.
To pupils unfamiliar with Judaism.
Something a lot of Orthodox Jews will do is they live really close to their synagogue because we're not driving on Shabbat.
The goal, to quell stereotypes and prejudice.
When we connect and we see each other, and when the students actually talk to each other, it breaks down those barriers.
Lauren Abraham is the director of the Student to Student program from the Jewish Community Relations Council of St. Louis.
You'll hear in the presentation we give a lot of statistics about how we're such a minority, but religious-based hate crimes, so many of them are focused toward us.
More than 100 teenage ambassadors volunteer every year to be part of the JCRC program. And after hours of training, they will visit more than 120 classrooms all over the bi-state area.
For a baby boy, there's a bris or brit milah.
17-year-old Riley Fine says she felt a responsibility to sign up.
Every minority is feeling this hatred and just kind of this sense of doom in the world, that there's always this stuff happening and nobody's fighting against it. So I think that by coming into these classrooms, it is our way of hoping to change that.
So this is how you would spell shalom.
Each presentation is deliberately low tech.
I have some props, like this is a Torah that was given to me by my synagogue.
And they touch on everything from holidays to the Hebrew language.
Just so everyone knows, the Torah is the Old Testament.
18-year-old Sam Deutsch told the personal story of his great-uncle.
It's an important thing to my family and to him.
Who survived the Auschwitz death camp and became an educator.
His philosophy was that if he spent the rest of his life wanting revenge and all that kind of stuff, that nothing would happen and anti-Semitism would go on in the world.
Stories like that strike a poignant chord for Mr. Kirby.
My grandmother and her siblings were all part of the Hitler Youth, and my great-uncle ended up in the SS.
A chuppah represents a home that the couple is going to make.
Which is why he invites the program into his classroom every year.
My Uncle Fritz and I even spoke about this program that I'm doing here and how all of this helps the world be a better place.
It's hard to measure the difference 1 hour can make, but for some, it seemed to have a lasting impact.
It kind of makes me wonder, like, when did it stop being about the fact that we're all people? You know, regardless of cultural differences or traditions, ethnicity.
Student to student.
Or the best way to get rid of subconscious biases and stereotypes is to actually just interact.
Shining a light to eclipse the shadows of prejudice.
We do have our differences, but we can all connect together.
Thank you so much for listening to what we had to say today.
And building bridges of understanding, one lesson at a time.
We're very divided these days, and I think it's refreshing just to have a conversation with a human being.
A reminder, if you know an inspiring person or someone making a difference for others, just let me know by email at mbush@ksdk.com.
The Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah ended just hours ago at nightfall. And today, a large crowd gathered at Veterans Tribute Park in Weldon Spring for a shofar in the park. That name, shofar, coming from the hollowed-out ram's horn you're hearing there. Jews will end 10 days of repentance and reflection with Yom Kippur, which starts 1 week from tonight. Meteorologist Gary Frank joining us now with the Weather First forecast. Gary?
Yeah, pretty nice night, although, it's starting to warm up. This is our last night. I think we can leave the windows open as we look in Chesterfield, an area that gets a little bit cooler by default, and we've seen the last couple of mornings in the upper 40s and low 50s in the Chesterfield Valley and even outside of the city. Right now in the city, it's 63 degrees with wind that is much calmer than it was earlier. We got to 80. Our normal is 81. That's pretty standard, but our wind speeds got between 20 and 25 miles an hour. Not all that bad. It was behind that cold front that moved through and at least kept us in the 70s. You saw that cloud cover move from that direction, and while rain developed, it never materialized for us, and we're done with the rain for a while. We'll see things pretty clear and cool tonight. Temps in the low 50s or even upper 40s in that specific Chesterfield Valley, probably close to 49 degrees tomorrow morning. And for tomorrow afternoon, we're going to see temps in the upper 70s, right around 80 degrees, maybe a little patchy fog in Chesterfield, but overall still not that bad. I think it's going to be a very nice day. This is a bridge to some warmer than normal conditions, and this is not going to be right away, and we're maybe not going to notice it quite as much. But as we look at how it didn't rain over the weekend, this is now the 14th driest start to September. For the first half of the month, we've had less than 1/4 of an inch of rain so far, and that's something to note as we only get drier over the next few days. Total rainfall through next week, we showed you, is not all that impressive through next Sunday, maybe up to under 1/2 inch, and that's just not going to cut it as we go throughout the 3rd week of September and really officially into fall. So, in advanced tracking, we get this cooler north breeze out of the way, and we won't transition it to a southerly breeze. That's why we're not going to see much humidity, but a westerly breeze and this ridge of high pressure will start to keep us warmer than normal before a change. Now, meteorological fall, we're in it. That started September 1st. October, November continues, but the autumnal equinox, where we have just about equidistant 12 hours of daylight and nighttime, is on Saturday at 1:49, and it's not going to feel like fall at all. And that's why you're already starting to see that with the soil moisture and the temperature anomalies that are warmer than normal, we're starting to see some stress on those leaves. That's why they're turning a different color, and also why you're starting to see some of them already turn. And our fall foliage update through September 14th actually has some of us in low color. This will continue over the next few days. So as we start to work our way into not only fall, but the aforementioned holiday of Yom Kippur, first day of fall, a slight chance for rain, but temps in the mid 80s. And then over the next few days, not only are we going to not see those mornings that we have on the way tomorrow morning, and then even Tuesday morning where we're still in the 50s, we go right back in the 60s, and that's where you'll really notice it when we get close to 90. And I don't think we're going to get there, but we're not really going to see much of a change until Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday when we return to those 50s or upper 70s. But there's not much rain over the next 10 days at all.
I'm 5 on your side. Traffic Chief Paul Cook on the move. Motorists in North County have been dealing with lots of confusion over the past 3 years, going almost every direction during that huge $278 million 270 North infrastructure project. The good news? Major progress has been made on the Dunn Road reconstruction, and the entire project is due to wrap up at the end of the year. However, over the next week, you'll still encounter delays on your commute in mainly 2 areas along I-270 up north. Here are those lane restrictions. The 170 ramp to I-270 will be back open in the morning, but still with some new lane adjustments. The I-270 ramp to northbound Route 367 will be closed through mid-October. Some of the primary goals for this construction were to, number 1, make the area safer for both motorists and pedestrians, 2, make it more durable with fewer loop ramps, and number 3, reconstructing it to make the area move better by adding new lanes and more roundabouts. And MoDOT and their partners appear to have done just that. One example, look at this. Most of the work along Dunn and Purcell complete. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. That's On the Move. I'm Paul Cook, 5 on your side.
Tonight, possible new complications for former President Trump's legal defense. His new claims about a rigged election raising eyebrows. Just hours ago, President Biden arrived in New York City ahead of this week's United Nations General Assembly meeting. He'll address world leaders Tuesday. The president is also expected to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Earlier today, on the South Lawn of the White House, President Biden offered a quick comment on the Republican-led House impeachment inquiry. Lots of luck. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy launched the impeachment inquiry last week over questions about the president's involvement with his son Hunter Biden's business dealings. However, other investigations have yet to reveal any connection. New scrutiny tonight for former President Donald Trump over comments he made on Meet the Press this morning. He tells new moderator Kristen Welker he made up his own mind to spread claims the 2020 election was rigged.
I saw what happened. I watched that election and I thought the election was over at 10 o'clock in the evening.
You were listening to your instincts.
My instincts are a big part of it. That's been the thing that's gotten me to where I am, my instincts. But I also listen to people. There are many lawyers.
Were you calling the shots, though, Mr. President, ultimately?
As to whether or not I believed it was rigged, oh, sure. It was my decision.
Legal experts say that assertion could undercut any defense strategy laying blame on his lawyers. The Sprint of St. Louis, the new race celebrating our city's new team. The stages today for Porch Fest STL. There were several musical acts offering a diverse musical selection. Also a lot of food and drink there. And City Park was the backdrop for City Sprint, a new 1-mile race and fun run. Participants raced around St. Louis City SC's 32-acre campus. They didn't give out any medals, but instead winners took home city kits and signed memorabilia. All right, Gary has a final check of our weather. Gary?
Yeah, we got one last morning where we can, well, let's call it 1.5, because I think some of you may be able to do it on Tuesday morning, but we're already in the 50s. It is nice and cool, and with several more hours of cooling down, we're going to see more spots in the 40s, especially in Chesterfield, already at 54 degrees. This is going to be one of our coolest mornings we've had in the city all season long. This is the last of it, really. Tuesday, and then we're going to start to warm up. And that's what we'll continue to monitor here over the next few days as we have temperatures back in the mid-80s, even in the afternoon, Mark.
All right, a nice week shaping up. Thank you for staying up late with us at 5 on your side at 10. And you can start your day with Today in St. Louis starting at 4 a.m. Now, here's Frank Cusimano with Sports Plus.